Caller, what is your name, comment, and or question?
Comment.
Go for it.
I'm going to comment on Republicanomics.
Okay. Yeah, we're heading into that section in a few minutes, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, he said some stuff already. Do you want me to go into it now? This is actually my first time calling.
Okay. What's your name?
Show. Oh, John Maloney.
John, thanks for the call. What's on your mind with regard to Republicanomics?
Well, he's saying, he makes it sound like if some people have a certain amount of wealth, there's less wealth around for other people to have. And wealth doesn't work that way, right? So, like, the economy could grow as large as it wants to grow. It could shrink. It's not a certain amount of wealth out there, and then we just get what we could get. We actually create the wealth itself. And you can see this, like, during the 90s, right? Bill Gates, Dell, they made huge amounts of money, massive amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
And the economy grew, and everyone was richer. That was like one of the best times for the middle class. The other best time for the middle class was actually during the Reagan years. I don't know, he doesn't mention that. He makes it sound like the past 30 years are all bad, when really it was just from Bush till now.
You really okay? Let's back up, John.
So anyway, that's the issues I want to talk about.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, so you think that the best time, one of the other best times for the American middle class was the Reagan years, when we saw post 1981, we saw a complete shifting of the wealth in America, where the top 1%, and at the time we didn't regard them as the top 1%, right? That, granted, that's a new jargon that we're going with now, but we saw where the middle class began to get squeezed out. There is a share of wealth in America. Yes, you can create new wealth, but as wealth is created, how that wealth is distributed and how that wealth is spread out amongst the 350 million people.
It's not distributed in America. It's earned in America. It's created, and then the people who create it keep it. Like when Bill Gates went and created that massive amount of wealth by starting Microsoft. He had that. He paid it to his employees. He spends it in the economy.
No doubt, and we don't disagree there.
And those businesses go and create it. It's not like distributed by like some group.
Obviously,
who are like,
Hold
I
on,
take
John.
this amount.
Hold
of
on, John.
money.
Let me finish my point. No one is that. There's no misconception there, right? The misconception that I think you have is that there is a equal opportunity to obtain wealth in America. No one is saying that there has to be.
No. I never said that. Don't accuse me of that now.
All right. Well, hang on.
I'm just saying certain periods of
people
more opportunity than others. The Reagan years and the Clinton years
were not
good examples of that.
Okay, hang on.
The Reagan years,
John,
income really fast.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, John. The Reagan years. I don't know what data you're pulling from, but the Reagan years were not good to the middle class. Everything post the Reagan years was not good, and with regard to the amount of wealth that is in the hands of the middle class, there is an opportunity for people to create wealth, but it is not an equal opportunity for people to create wealth in the United States of America. There's no. And then if you look at this, answer me this: do you know that there is inside of capitalism that the middle class is not a natural occurring phenomenon?
Oh, yes, it is. There's a middle class in every capitalist society.
No, the middle class. Hang on. The middle class is not a natural occurring phenomenon. The middle class began to develop in the United States in a significant way.
That's the median income. That's not the average.
Hang on, John. We're not going to talk over each other, John.
Family size went down.
John, either we're gonna take turns and go back and forth, or we're not gonna have the conversation, because it's not a conversation if we're talking over each other.
I'm just saying we gotta stick to the facts, because your next argument was based on a false premise.
What was my next argument? You're predicting my argument.
No, you said that the middle class hasn't been doing good since Reagan got in office, and Reagan
the middle class
an increase in the median.
John, how much do you make? We don't know you. We don't know what city you're in, so feel free to say no. But you're with a cover of anonymity. How much do you make?
60.
60,000. What city do you live in? No, okay, don't tell us what city. Do you live in a metropolitan area or do you live in a rural area?
No, I don't. It's cheap where I live.
It's cheap where you live.
Yeah, in
now,
Florida.
It's okay, and there are some parts. Now, in fairness to Florida, there's some parts of Florida where 60,000 will almost have you in poverty, right? If you live in some of the metropolitan area, downtown Miami, of course, you're not going to make it on 60,000. If you live in Opelika, then yeah, you'll be fine. But the problem is not that. The problem is not simply that there's wealth to be made and wealth to be had. The problem is that if you don't have access to capital, if you don't have access, if you cannot get outside of the poverty trap, then you are not going to ever have the opportunity to get access to that capital. So
you're right on that.
We're not saying
you're right on that, but here's the thing.
Now, hang on. Now, this is the most important part, John. The most important part is, hang on, John. Let me give you the most important part. I have to give you the most important part, and then I'll give you the floor. The most important part in that is that once you are born inside a certain economic strata, you only have access besides education. Now, right? Education is a great. Education is a great way out.
I know what you mean,
John. Exactly. So this is what I'm saying. Without programs, without safety nets, without opportunities to get out of poverty, then you will never be able to have a conversation about creating wealth. Forget about creating wealth. Like there are exceptional people.
You're right. There's a lot of people whose talents aren't being used to the full extent.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about now.
There's a lot of people who how do you feel about vouchers for schools? Give parents because I taught for a while in an inner city school, and
ditto that.
The teachers didn't give a damn about those kids, but the kids had talent. There were talented kids there. It broke my heart.
We don't get off track. I'll be glad to talk about vouchers because I have a lot to say about vouchers. But I want to get back on track.
Yeah, I kind of changed subject on you there.
But here's the main point I'm saying. Without the programs, without assistance, without safety nets, and I'm just going to use the word, without redistributing the wealth, it is impossible for someone who is born in poverty to get access to the capital necessary to create wealth. Now, you will always have the exceptional few who can do it, right? You always have the Oprah Winfrey's who was born in abject poverty, just ridiculously poor and became a billionaire. But we're not talking about the exceptional. We're talking about the average American. And since 1981, we have seen the stripping down, the reduction of what we spend in education. We see the stripping down of all of our programs. We've seen just the gutting of everything that would help create the middle class and sustain the middle class for the average American. Now, people like you, people like me, we might be just above average, and so we'll do fine. But what about all of the other 100 million people in America who are not overly exceptional? We're leaving them to the wolves.
Well, basically, you need to. Well, the thing to do is increase opportunity, though. I think distributing income so that some people can invest, is that the thing? Is not going to work. And giving it to the government to go around investing, come on, these people are ridiculous.
Not to invest. Listen, the most expansionary part, the most expansionary period we've had, hang on, let me give you this. Let me drop this on you. The most expansionary period that we've had.
Pay attention to it like a business owner would. The thing to do there would be to reduce regulations.
John,
hang on.
Regulations.
John, you can't even start a radio station these days.
John, we can't run off. We can't chase a whole bunch of different things. Let's focus on the original conversation. I'll be glad to have you back to discuss any of these things in depth. But we're talking about the notion that that you asserted that the middle class did great underneath Ronald Reagan, and that's just not the case.
Did.
That's not. We saw. Let's not mistake this. Here's the mistake.
I want to just add one thing to that.
Go ahead.
I notice you touch on a lot of racial issues on this show, and
well, hang on, not if you're going to go off on a tangent. Not if you. It needs to be in
and Reagan during the Reagan term. That was the first time in history that blacks closed the income gap with whites. They closed the income gap with whites throughout the entire Reagan term, and then the second time they did it was during Clinton's term. These are the economics I'm talking about.
All right, let's go back to this economic. Now, I think I know exactly where you're coming from. You're looking at the data that you're looking at is representing the median income that we saw the median income increase in the 80s. We saw the median income increase over the last 35 years. Yes, the median income has increased, but the number of Americans who have access to obtaining the median income, or even to move from. Do you know how difficult? If we talk about the Gini coefficient here in the United States.
about the average income. Median income is what the middle person in America makes. Like
Absolutely,
they start from
but it's
both
still
ends, and they find out who's in the middle.
Absolutely, I
So
understand. I completely understand.
over half
how
of
median.
Americans are making the median income or more, and then half of Americans are making
But
the median income or less.
there is a huge drop off. There's a huge drop off after the median income. There's also, here's the thing, the opportunity to move.
Oh, there is.
We're not talking about.
I'll give you that.
We're not just talking about the who's doing fine where they are. We're talking about that opportunity to move to the next level. So you have half of America that is below $50,000. Let's say right now $50,000 is the median income. You have half of America that's below that, and a significant amount that are in poverty in the United States. Now, let's forget about doing a program to get them out of poverty. Let's talk about their kids. The opportunity to move from one generation of poverty into the next middle class, that has reduced significantly over the last 30 years. And that's what we're talking. We're not talking about taking Bill Gates' wealth and saying he makes too much, let's distribute it.
Oh, no, those programs have gotten way bigger.
Those programs, John, I appreciate your call, John, and I definitely want you to call back, but I have to get back on topic. Those programs have been gutted. Those programs have been gutted over the years, and we see this in education. You brought up education. You brought up, and John, you can do some more after the call, after the show is over. Feel free to call back, or I can call you. Just hit me on YouTube and let me know. I definitely like to finish conversations, but I got to move on. Hey, thanks for watching this video, everyone. If you liked it, be sure to click the like button, subscribe, and make sure you share it with all of your friends. If you like what we're doing at the Benjamin Dixon Show and think more people should hear it, consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show, and we'll see you next time.